Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Welcome back to Plot Twist Radio, the podcast where storytellers share their twists behind their stories and sometimes the twists behind their lives. Today's guest is, well, let's just say he doesn't do just one thing. Stuart is the creative force behind multiple fan favorite series, including the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries and the Pathway Ring series. His work spans paranormal suspense, thrillers, and imaginative worlds that blur the lines between reality and the unknown. Before becoming a full-time storyteller, Stuart spent over a decade training in martial arts until a knee injury changed his path. These days, when he's not crafting intricate mysteries, he's playing lead guitar in a blues band called the Bootleggers and enjoying life on a small farm in North Carolina. So today, we're diving into the mind of a writer who seems to live at the intersection of discipline, creativity, and just a little bit of chaos. Hi, Stuart. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Aaron. Thanks for having me here.
Great to have you. Before we get going, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Stuart Jaffe. I'm best known as the author of the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, but I've been writing for almost 30 years. So I have something like over 70 some titles in all different kinds of science fiction, fantasy, everything from time travel fantasy to contemporary fantasy, epic. I'm my newest thing that'll be coming out in June, hopefully. Cross my fingers, will be a dragon horror. So yeah, a little bit of everything. Plus science fiction.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I like that. So, as you said, you've written across many genres. I like to write over different genres too. I get bored with one and like to switch around. I don't know why. It's just kind of how I am.
Yeah, that's how I feel, and I find that if I'm bored, I can't expect you to be the reader to be interested. So as long as I do it to keep myself excited. If all 70 books were the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, I'd be financially doing a lot better. But I don't know, I would have burned out a long time ago. So
Oh, yeah. So, for you, did storytelling come first or did life come first and then storytelling came later on?
well, storytelling in some ways it was always there. I mean, I have memories of. I remember being a little kid. Probably was like 8 or 9, and I'm old, so this is back before, before computers, really, home computers. I had a typewriter, and I can remember putting a piece of paper in there going, "I'm gonna write the great American novel," and I spent it felt like hours, and I got 1 page done, but it was a whole story in 1 page, because it was all because I didn't know what I was doing, and I guess, I don't know, my mom was out 'cause they had a babysitter in the house, and she read it, and it was a science fiction story. It had to do with clones and things, and she was a sweetheart because she actually took it seriously, like, read it and then actually critiqued me and made me think about the logic of what I had done. So, I mean, in some ways, that's always been there. I went to college and studied theater, directing theater, and very quickly started writing my own plays to direct. So it's always been there, but I didn't really recognize it until later, till I started writing plays, and then that led to writing short stories, and that led to writing longer stories, and snowballed from there.
Awesome. So, how different is it writing a play versus writing a novel?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, writing a play it's you're pretty much just writing dialogue. You can put in some stage directions, but you don't want to put in too much. You're basically the dialogue should tell the whole story as much as possible, which was great, which was a in some ways a great thing. Like dialogue has never been an issue for me as a prose writer because I have that background. I had to learn how to back off of that because I would have just pages that were just quote, 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 quote. And I'm like, "Oh, no, you need to break that up in different ways and guide the reader a little bit more," because an actor, their whole job is to spend, especially in theater, they're gonna spend weeks and weeks, if not months, looking at those lines and trying to figure out what's that writer trying to say, and how do I say this? The reader a reader is just gonna read it and keep going. So it's got to be clear. They're mad, they're sad, they're, emphatic, they're saying the opposite of what they're feeling or whatever the situation is.
Oh, yeah. That's something I have a hard time with. I remember when I first got my first manuscript back, it was from I think she was a developmental editor, I can't remember now, but she's like, "Show, not tell. Stop telling us everything," and it was just so hard for me, I don't know why.
Well, yeah, it's funny, I'm gonna be doing a convention in a few months, and, we just got the panelists to choose what we wanted to be on, and one of them was, about terrible writing advice, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do that," and one of the my one bit is that, is show, don't tell, because I understand why we teach that at for beginning writers, because most beginning writers wanna tell everything, but it's gotten to the point where people don't are not willing to tell. They just wanna show everything, and I'm like, "No, no, no. Telling is good. It's
Yeah.
just learning when to tell and when to show."
Right, exactly, they gotta
That's the
find that
thing.
balance. So, let's talk about the Max Porter paranormal mysteries because they're very interesting, especially to me as a ghost hunter, that's my kinda thing. So, what inspired that series?
So the series began. I live in North Carolina, where the whole series takes place, and at the time, my wife was working on her master's at Wake Forest University. So ended up spending a lot of time at the university, waiting for her to go have lunch or dinner, pick her up or whatever. And so I would be spend that time at the university library. And one time, for whatever reason, I don't know, I realized I'd been in Winston-Salem, North Carolina for a couple of years and really didn't know much about the place. So I went down to the local history section of the library and found a book that, while I was looking through it, I stumbled upon this aspect about the city, which was that during World War II, the soldiers were smoking cigarettes like they were going out of style because they, obviously were a little nervous. And so the president of the United States went to R.J. Reynolds for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco, and he said, we need more cigarettes. And R.J. Reynolds said, well, I could run my factories 24/7. I just don't have manpower. So we took we brought German POWs over the Atlantic and set up little camps all throughout North Carolina. Each one had like 18 or so soldiers in it, and they'd bus them in the night, have them work all night long, and bus them out before anybody woke up. I never heard about this my whole life. I mean, I've heard all different things about, there's plenty of stories about World War II, every possible story you could think of. And I never heard this. And I hadn't looked into it more. It turned out it was true. And that was the beginning. And I was like, I've got to use this for a story. And at the time I was trying, I had this again is we're going back to before indie publishing was a viable thing. So I was still had an agent. I was still on this merry-go-round of sending stuff to my agent, and she would send it to Tor and to Bain and to Spectra and all the different publishers. And the editors would come back and say, "Oh man, we love Stewart. We love his writing. We love his characters, his stories. We love it all. We're not going to buy it." And so we go around, merry-go-round keeps going. And, so my wife had suggested, "Well, you love reading mysteries and other types of things. Why don't you go try something else?" So I thought, "Okay, I will write a mystery based on this historical thing." And I started writing it, and then a ghost popped into the story because I discovered then I can't write anything I write will always involve some kind of science fiction fantasy element, and I just went with it. And once Marshall Drummond, who's the ghost, he's the ghost who died in the 1940s and is involved with this. His the case that killed him is the case that involves this POW situation, and that's kind of how it all started, and then I went with it from there. And so the whole series takes real history. Every book, I find different pieces of history about that the area originally just Winston Salem, and then it's got it's expanded, but it's always North Carolina, and and I mix it with witches and ghosts and magic and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. The historian in me is peaked. Of course, the ghost hunter in me is peaked. I have to say, I have so many people that have begged me to go to North Carolina, and I finally did a couple years ago, and I did the Battleship North Carolina for a ghost
Mhm.
hunt, and I was just amazed by all of the World War II history because I'm a Civil War historian, so, I know more of that stuff than the World War II stuff.
We got plenty of that here too.
You guys have all the history. I'm up in Northwest Indiana. We have nothing. I was just fascinated by all of the World War II history, especially with North Carolina, and that is when I actually heard what you were talking about because I didn't know that either about the POWs, but the guy that was running the, battleship was telling us all about it. He was like a
Mhm.
historian, so that's very fascinating.
Yeah, actually, the battleship is I keep wanting to use the battleship, because it is notoriously haunted, but I just haven't haven't gotten the story yet for it. Someday, maybe. I just
It
released the 20th book in the series, and it's still going strong, so there's no shortage of things to talk about.
No, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So, what makes Max different from your typical paranormal investigator?
A couple things. One is that Max himself has no skills. Like, his main skill the reason in the, first book, he got a job that brought him down to North Carolina, him and his wife, and his job was as a researcher, and that's what he does. What his contribution to the team is that he's the one who researches all the history and can learn the stuff. Through an event that happens in the first book, he has ends up with the ability to see one ghost, Marshall Drummond, who's the detective that they have this detective agency with, and his wife, she has always had the sixth sense to be able to see dead people, right? She sees ghosts all the time, and so that's one of the unique things is because it's told, third person, but it's specific to Max. So, we only can see the ghost that he can see. We can see we know there's other things going on, we're told by the characters, and there are a couple spells and instances where Max is privy to some of the other ghosts, but only for a short moment. So that's one thing. The other thing is Max is married. He and his wife, Sandra, have had a long relationship. They love each other. This is not a character who's got a new girl every episode, every book. Um, and they'll always be married. I've had fans who were a little worried, and I like, they're never going to cheat on each other. They're never going to get divorced. They love each other. That's one of the unique things about the book, because most a lot I shouldn't say most, but a lot of urban fantasy, whether it's a female or a male protagonist, they are just hopping in bed with everybody, or they're in some love triangle, and there is romance in some of these books, but it's the romance of a healthy married couple who've been together for a long time, and it's the romance that they have as opposed to the initial will they, won't they kind of romance.
Right, and
So
that's a good thing.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because as you said, it is oversaturated with the love triangles and the, who are they gonna end up with type thing,
Right.
but yeah, so you don't really see the marriages, especially before it even starts, so that's good, I like that.
So yeah, so those are a couple of the big things that really make it feel different. And then the world of magic is not like some crazy out there world. It's yet there are ghosts and there are witches, and the witches it's kind of an underground society kind of a thing, but in the same sense as like the mafia is an underground society. We all know they exist, we know they're there, or we think they're there, right? In terms of witches, we all know people call themselves witches. It's just that we don't in the world of Max Porter, the average person doesn't know that the magic part is real. And so that's the magic part, the ghost part, that part is real, but otherwise it's the real world. And so as opposed to like the Dresden Files, which is a wonderful series, but especially it started somewhat grounded in Chicago with wizard and magic. And by I don't know what book he's on now, but it's like there's the Fey world and this world, and there's the tribunals and and that's all I don't say that as a criticism, it's fun, but it's expanded into such a more fantasy thing, and it no longer is grounded in reality in that same sense, and I'm trying very hard, and the longer the series goes, it's like, how do I keep it constricted, so it doesn't balloon into going into these other planes and worlds, and yet still not be treading the same ground over and over and over and over, because that would get boring as well. So that's a
Right.
trick. It's
It
certainly the trick I have to deal with.
I can imagine. Yeah, after 20, I can imagine. So, when you're writing paranormal, how do you balance the mystery with the supernatural without, like, losing tension, I guess?
Well, so a big part of it is to not have them be separate things.
Mhm,
Ideally, ideally, whatever usually I have to spend a lot of time in the beginning just researching history. But an ideal piece of history for me is something that's unique and interesting, of course, something that excites me, but also has holes. Things where we're just like, we don't know what happened in this. So, and a good example would be, and you'll love this one. At the end of the Civil War, things were rather chaotic in the South.
mm,
And there was a lot of money being pilfered and taken places. And there was a boxcar full of gold that was being taken on a train, and from south to north, kind of across the state as well. And at one point, there was a stop. It stopped, and then all the gold disappeared. Like the
yes.
train arrived later, and there was no gold. And nobody has ever to this day found the gold. There are people who will go where this is located with metal detectors.
Mhm,
I think occasionally a coin is found, but nobody,
right.
so there's a weird little, that's a little mini story, but that's the kind of thing where I can now insert witchcraft, magic, ghosts, whatever I want to throw in there,
Mhm.
and weave that into the story.
I love that. Yeah, and I know the story you're talking about. Yes, I really wanna know where the gold is, but yes, that is fascinating. You see an article every so often about these guys are out here, but the FBI is not letting us look at the gold. It's so funny, but I wonder where that gold ended up. Not with me.
Now, I was about to just say I don't have it, but
So, you've built multiple series, as you said. How do you keep all of those worlds and characters straight without losing your mind?
very poorly, I think. If I could go back in time and, tell my younger self, I'd be like, truly learn to do a series Bible, right? I know people who do that, and it's a wonderful thing, but I never got in the habit of doing it, so I don't. And I the way I manage to keep this stuff straight is that I write a lot. I mean, I put out 3 to 4 books a year. So, I don't really give the stories that long. I'll write one in this series and keep moving it on. So, like, the latest Max Porter book came out in, February of this year. So I was writing it in, like, December and January, and by the end of this year, I will probably start writing another one, and so it hasn't been that long. It's not like I'm waiting 2 years, 3 years to revisit something. Occasionally, I often have to go back to the last book and read the final chapter just to remember how I left things.
Mm.
Um, and then things happen. I've told this story before, but I back when my son was a teenager and living with us, one day we're sitting around chatting about Max Porter, and he says, "Are you ever going to deal with that one thing that happened in, like, I probably like book 4 or whatever?" I'm like, "What thing?" He's like, there was this scene," and he described the scene. He goes, "And in it, the one character just kind of as a throwaway line mentioned this and this, and I've been wondering about that for like the last 5 books. What's gonna happen?" And the truth is I completely forgot. I did put that line in there with the intention of, like, someday writing something about it, but I completely forgot about it. So I was like, "Well, that's what the next book is gonna be about." So y'all have my son to thank for there not being a gap there. I'm sure there are other gaps. I know there are there are characters from early on that people are like, "Are we ever gonna see that character again?" I'm like, "Maybe." It would mean I'd have to go back and reread that, and I don't wanna reread my writing from decades ago because it's probably really bad as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I can see where that would be difficult. I know that I don't like to go back and read the stuff that I wrote a long time ago. I'm like, "What was I thinking? What was I doing?"
Right. I mean, hopefully we continue to grow and
Mhm.
become better at our craft and the art of it.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong. I mean, obviously the first book in the series still does its job and gets people hooked, and there's a lot of good. There's plenty good about it. But I can see
Right.
there are things that I like. They're not even mistakes. They're just I would do it different, or I could do it better now.
Mhm. Yes.
That kind of a thing.
And we're our worst critics usually. Usually.
The very first book I self-published was a science fiction book, that was a prose book. There's a science fiction book actually, I don't know if it was the first one I self-published, but it was called After the Crash. It was the first book I'd ever written that was publishable, like, back before self-publishing, it was submitted to an agency, and they basically said, we would have loved to publish it if we'd gotten it 2 weeks ago." But
Aw.
we have already signed somebody who fits that part of our science fiction thing. Please send more stuff. So there I knew that I had a book that was, publishable. I would change it completely now based on how I write, and yet I've had people come and they love that book. So who am I to say, I'm not gonna touch it? If you all love it, great.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what is up next for you?
Well, I did mention I have this dragon horror book. It's called Dragon Slain, and that'll be coming out soon, and it's a standalone book with series the ability to have a series, so it just depends on, I wrote it because the fans told me they wanted me to write a dragon book, so I wrote one, and I'm like, "If y'all actually buy it and sells well, I will write more of them. We'll see."
Right.
And so that's in editing right now, so I'm about to start gearing up for, the 3rd book in my science fiction series, The Pathway Ring, which, those take a while. They're the biggest kind of I tend to write very concise books, very not, like a Max Porter book is like 70, 80,000 words, and these books are like 100 and some, which is just to me is mind blowing to have write
Yeah.
something that big. But these are, like a family saga, following one family across multiple generations, centuries. And we follow them because their company is at the heart of building the first ever Stargate in space. And we fought, and then they go through, and you get spit out somewhere. And if you ever want to get back, you got to build the other end. So over all those centuries, we watch this family drama unwind mixed with political upheavals, first contact with aliens. Again, now that I know you're into the Civil War, you're probably familiar with the Kent Family Chronicles, John Jakes.
Yes.
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 So I was a big fan of that whole series. So I basically wanted to do that, but in science fiction. And so I mixed that idea of following one family through just all these historical events and these big things. But of course, none of it's happened because it's in the future. So it's a future history.
Interesting. That'll be good.
So,
So, that's coming out, is it the summer or we're not sure yet
so
on that?
it's the third book. I have to look at my schedule. I think it will be out in Well, it'll be out in late of this year, like August. No, not August. We went really like October. That's what I was trying to say. October or November, somewhere in there, depending on how long it takes to write. The first 2, the second one surprised me with how long it took. So I've given myself a much longer frame to write it in. The first book is called Pioneers of the Pathway, and yeah, you should check it out. You'll love it.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. So, where can the audience find you?
I'm not hard to find. StuartJaffe.com is my website. That'll link you everywhere. Or if that's too much trouble, you can just put me in at Amazon or wherever you like to buy books. I'm everywhere. 5% of my stuff is in audio at this point. So if you like that, go on to Audible, Apple, or Amazon, and get the audiobooks there. And yeah, I try to make it pretty easy. Oh, and I
Perfect.
have Patreon. I got to remember that too.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget that one.
Yeah.
Well, I will make sure that those are in the links along with your release dates. And thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been great. And that was my conversation with Stuart Jaffe. He's an author who proves that you don't have to stay in one lane to build an incredible storytelling career. From paranormal mysteries rooted in real history to sweeping science fiction sagas, Stewart's work lives right at the intersection of imagination and reality, which, let's be honest, it's exactly where the best stories are born. If you're into ghosts, hidden history, or just really well crafted worlds, you're going to want to check out his Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries and keep an eye out for his upcoming release. As always, I'll have all of Stewart's links in the show notes so you can dive into his work, follow along, and maybe even uncover a few mysteries of your own. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, rate, and share Plot Twist Radio because you never know which story or which storyteller might change the way you see things. Until next time, I'm Erin, and this has been Plot Twist Radio.